episode of the Stop Yulin Podcast, we are joined by Amanda Leask, author of the award-winning book Miracle, which I'm so happy I got. I invite everyone at home to go get it. If you haven't read the story, it's amazing. And she was also a semi-finalist on Britain's Got Talent, a platform that she ingeniously levered to tell the remarkable story of her dog, Miracle, who was rescued at the last hour from a dog meat truck heading for slaughter in Hanoi, Vietnam. Amanda and Miracle's story moved audiences worldwide and helped raise awareness on the horrors of the dog meat trade to a mass global audience. Miracle survived against all odds and repaid his adopter, Amanda, by creating a special bond with her 6-year-old son, Kyle. I imagine now he's 8 years old.
Kyle is actually going to be 13 this December.
No way. Okay, yeah, so this, I will correct myself. Her 13-year-old son, Kyle, but when he met Miracle, he was 6 years old at the time, I guess.
Yeah, 5 years old. I mean, he's, I hate to be, he's going to be 13 in December. I hate even saying 13. I can't believe
I know
I'm going to have a teenager.
Time flies, eh? It's crazy. But okay, so he met Miracle when he was 6 years old, and they formed a very special bond. And you tell us all about this bond and the story. So it's a really amazing book to read. And your son, we have to say, he was born with cerebral palsy and was later diagnosed with autism. Mm-hmm. So the winners of the prestigious Friends for Life Award at Crufts 2015, Amanda lives with her husband, Tobias, her son, Kyle. Tobias, I do apologize. Okay. Let me rephrase that. Amanda lives with her husband, Tobias. I actually prefer that way. Her son, Kyle, and a menagerie of 45 dogs, half of which are rescues near Inverness, Scotland. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled that you are with us today because I got to tell you, the story of Miracle touched obviously mass audiences across the globe, but it touched me particularly. I bawled my eyes out just seeing your act on Britain's Got Talent. I was like wailing. And it's a very inspiring story. I mean, just when it seems like all hope was lost for this beautiful dog, somehow it wasn't, and there was still time. And it's thanks to the generous and compassionate hearts like yours that, Miracle is alive today. And, he's educating all of us about this massive issue that is the dog meat trade. So we're going to talk about all of this, your work, your advocacy work. Today, we're going to talk about Miracle's story in depth. But before we get into all those details, I always like to have a little bit of a background note on our guests. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit how you got involved, where did your passion for animals begin? Was it from the get-go as a child? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I used to love to go and visit at weekends and go and stay with my nana because she had a dog, and it was just from 2 years old. In fact, they actually included it in the filming of Britain's Got Talent because I've got a picture with her when I was 2. And I suppose it was in the genes. It's, from as early as I can remember, it was time spent with her, rescuing birds and, knocking on neighbours' doors when I didn't have a dog, asking if I could take theirs out to go walks.
Wow.
So, I think it was always there, and I come from a family who really do love animals too. So yeah, I mean, I was like any other kid. I had my hamsters and I had my goldfish, and, but I never had a dog. So
you would use Nana's dog.
Yeah, Nana's dog, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's my husband and I joke about it because Tobias will often say to me, I blame your mum because you didn't have a dog, and now look at how many we've got now. You've just knocked it out of the park. So yeah,
you made up for lost time.
exactly. Something like that. So yeah, it was, right from I was a tiny little tot.
Wow. And, because we're talking about the dog meat trade today, I'm always curious, how did you first hear about it? Was it through Miracle, or did you know about it before?
No, it was through social media.
Yeah.
And I think that really, I mean, obviously you've read the book, so you realize that the time that I had on my hands, though that time was precious to look after Kyle slept a lot. He came home on oxygen, at only a few months old. And I think at that time I was just, really being introduced to Facebook. So I would see posts coming up on social media. And then I started to do a little bit more research bit by bit.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And then, I realized that my other dogs that I've had for many years were so privileged in how they lived, and they had good food. They were loved, they never wanted for anything. And then I kind of, the more research I'd done, I actually decided that I wanted to rescue from Thailand, because I'd done my research about the meat trade there. And also a little street dog from Romania as well.
Yes.
So,
and actually, we're going to talk about that, because it's in your book. And I'm, it's always an eye opener, because you always feel like in the West, we have animal welfare laws, most countries, and you think, okay, it's not so bad over here. But, Romania is a very difficult country, and there's a lot of cruelty, and,
there's many different countries.
Oh, not just Romania, of course. Yeah.
It's that have no animal welfare laws, and this is what we're all fighting, isn't it? Yeah. It's a tough one, and I think, at that time I was quite, even though I'd done my research, I was still naive at that point. And my husband had said, okay, you can have one from Romania and one from Thailand.
And that's it.
Then, then the thing is that it turned out to be 3 in that same year, because I was aware of the fact that there was dogs that weren't in the meat trade, but they had maybe been sitting in a shelter, like places like Soy Dog, which is actually where my little dog came from. He'd been there for 6 years.
Soy Dog, Soy Dog Foundation,
I also wanted to rescue from the meat trade. So, I had this dilemma that I thought, I'm going to have to try and nudge him a little bit more and see if I could get 2 from Thailand and, this little one from Romania. And that's kind of the way it turned out. So it was one from the meat trade and one that had been waiting for 6 years.
To add to the menagerie, I mean, you have how many dogs today? Like 45?
Well, actually, we've lost a few dogs just since Christmas time. So that's been quite tough.
From old age, or was it
some
more
old days, and one just recently that we actually lost to a gastric torsion, which is an awful thing to happen. And
it doesn't matter how many dogs you have, each one of them is special and has a place.
They're all completely special. And people often laugh when if my dogs howl or someone barks, it's like walking into a crowded room and you hear a voice that you recognize. I know who's did it. I know who the instigator is if they're trying to set up a howl.
That's something, like
their voice.
Such and such.
You can. Yeah.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. You're a good mommy. A mommy always recognizes the voice of her child, no matter how many. But I'm curious, when you say you saw a post on social media, was it about the Yulin Dog Meat Festival? Because I know that went around quite a bit. Yeah. It was before that? And what year?
No, it was all different. We're talking back in sort of, I had started to look at things back in sort of 2010, as soon as I was sort of on Facebook. I was quite late to Facebook.
Yeah.
And I actually was looking at the Romanian welfare issues, and then there would be posts crop up on dog meat trade, and I can't actually remember for sure where they were from. But I really sort of threw myself into researching as much as possible, because at that point it was really prevalent about the Thai meat trade that was going on. And that is how I got involved with Soy Dog Foundation and the people that were working for them. And, and that's the rest history, really.
And you say you were late on Facebook, but I was the one that was very late, because I only started a Facebook page. It was only in May of 2018 that I started a page. I started a group, actually. And the reason why I did is because I heard about the Yulin Dog Meat Festival, and I knew it was coming up in June of that year. And I was adamant that I was going to do something, like it's the kind of an issue that, really touches your heart, and you feel compelled to do something, anything. And I also realized that not many people knew about the issue in my hometown of Montreal. None of my co-workers knew about it. So I said, okay, well, let me try to rally some momentum and get something going in Montreal. And I quickly realized that, Facebook's a great place to network with animal, activists and people that care about this cause. So yeah, you were well ahead of me in 2010 that you heard about this. But I imagine no matter when you hear about it, we all just want to make a difference. And, so I'm really glad that, you've done such good advocacy work for this cause, and we need to continue and make change happen for these dogs and cats, because it's not just dogs, it's cats also that are very viciously abused and, slaughtered. So I want to obviously now take a deep dive into Miracle's story. And I read in your book that basically you found out about Miracle's situation from seeing a photograph, right? On Facebook, I guess, or social media. Can you tell us a little bit more how that came about?
Well, by that time, so that was 2013 that I saw that picture. And the woman who posted it had already rescued 2 of my dogs from the meat trade. Really? So I followed her work, and she was based in Thailand, and she had a full-time job, and she would either at weekends, she would fly up to northern Thailand, or the days that she knew that she was going to be bringing animals back, she would hire trucks. And she would take test kits to check who had distemper, so that she wasn't cross-contaminating who she was bringing from the shelter. But she'd rescued both Coco and Bliss. And in fact, Bliss was in the act for Britain's Got Talent.
He was one of the 4 dogs?
She's named Grace Kelly. That's her little stage name.
Okay. I wasn't recognizing the name. That's
why. So, and Bliss was a stolen pet. Coco is thought to have been a stolen pet.
Wow.
And they both ended up in exactly the same shelter that Miracle did, although much later on.
Can you tell us the name of that shelter? What's the name of the shelter?
It's known as MP Shelter.
Oh yeah, I know it's kind of
it's Nakhon Phanom, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the correct
you probably pronounce
pronunciation in my accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, they actually all spent time there, just at different times.
Okay.
And it's somewhere that I've always felt that if it was possible, I want to go there, because for me, there's a lot of ghosts, it's where so many animals started, or where their lives ended, even after rescue.
Can you say the name of that lady? Like, would we know about her?
She's known as B. B. And she's been over to Scotland a couple of times to visit me.
But she lives in Thailand. She lives in
she's Thai. She lives in Thailand, and but she gave up her time because she obviously was aware of what was happening in her home country, and at that point it was there was trucks every day, every second day, huge trucks with over 1,000 dogs on board. So I know for a fact that Coco, I think what happened was their truck had been abandoned and all the dogs in crates because they couldn't get across the river to smuggle the dogs over. So they, a lot of these smugglers would just, take to their heels and run.
So we don't know why he was not able to make that trip, or
I think they were going to get caught. I think the police, that area was being heavily policed.
Yes, because you're not supposed to transport dogs across borders, right? Like there's some laws about that, and you have to. This was 2013, so I think it was the year before
This was 2013 for Miracle.
For Miracle, but for your other dogs, it was before.
And Coco and Bliss, Coco was over in 2011 or 12. I forget actually, because I've got so many dogs now. But but again, she was thought to have been a stolen pet. And then what was strange about it was actually following these stories and seeing these pictures on social media. I came across a picture of Bliss when she was actually in the cage on the truck as well. She was on the back of a pickup truck. And so there was compartments underneath and then cages towered on top of one another. And the strange thing about this is that obviously I know that she's here, she's well, she's probably, I reckon, maybe about 10 years old. And her and Coco are getting on in years. And so this day I was going through social media and I saw that Leona Lewis had sung this song about
she did the Yulin song for Lisa Vanderpump, her organization.
That's right. So of course I'm out of interest. Obviously I'm listening to this and I'm watching the photos and eyes welled up as you do. And saw Bliss. I saw Bliss, my own dog, in this video.
In that video?
And I tweeted Lisa and said, that dog that you have in the video is very much alive and she's here with me in Scotland. So they're aware, that Bliss is around.
That's insane. Like, that is
How crazy is that?
That is crazy. Wow.
But lovely to think that, obviously they'd used photos assuming it was dogs that hadn't made it.
I know. I bawl my eyes out on anything, like that. It's really very moving. But that's crazy. At least one dog made it out, and
Bliss was a dog. Don't get me wrong. She's so happy now, and she's full of mischief. She's full of fun. But she was one very, very troubled dog because in the shelter, when she was in NP shelter, it was evident that she'd had puppies. You could see it. It was very obvious. I don't know where she gave birth.
Was she used for breeding, maybe, or we don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
But I hate to think where she gave birth because she was in amongst all those dogs.
And many of them actually give birth on those trucks. It's unbelievable.
And the sad thing is that after that, she contracted distemper, and so obviously it was B that had rescued her. And I remembered her saying when she rescued Bliss, she said she bit me. She's
so traumatized. Yeah.
But she fought it. And, you know, after 3 months, she came through the other side. And Bliss would be the dog that you would find in the kitchen, that she could spring off all 4 feet, and she'd be on a countertop. And she'd be scavenging. See, I mean, she was just full of mischief. She completely turned around. I had to get my husband to spend quite a lot of time with her because she was terrified of men. And, you know, she came through the other side. So she is Grace Kelly that was on the stage.
Yes.
Grace Kelly.
Jean Harlow.
Obviously, I couldn't bring 40 that are there, but Miracle decided to choose 4. So I'm going to let you meet them.
Every little thing she does is magic. Even though my life is tragic.
So we have Jean Harlow, Grace Kelly, Braveheart, and Marilyn Monroe.
Stage.
Yes.
And you can see how happy and mischievous she actually
And
is
this
now.
was, you rescued her in 2011, 2012, you say?
She was after Coco and Toby, because Toby had been resident at Soy Dog Shelter for 6 years.
Oh,
So he made the trip over with Coco. I think that was 2012. And then, you know, and I think it must have been early 2013. I think Bliss came in 2013.
Okay.
And then Miracle was rescued in 2013, but spent 9 months in a clinic in Bangkok.
It was a long process. And actually, in your book, you mentioned that it was actually hard to track him from that picture. But let's, you know, for people at home that might not know the story, essentially, you were on social media, you saw a post of B, I believe. She took a picture of this truck that had been intercepted. It was moving from Thailand, trying to cross the border into Vietnam. Right. And we should mention also, most people know, but Thailand outlawed dog meat trade in 2014. And so that's why we say it's illegal smuggling, you know, from different parts of the country. A lot of them were sourced in Thailand, and they moved them into Vietnam, which is a hotbed for dog meat. And so this truck, Miracle, I mean, people at home probably saw the video, but he looked all but, you know, dead.
He looked like he was gone. Yeah.
It was over. I mean, anyone would have seen him in that state would assume that it was too late. But when B took a picture, his eyes lit up, and
he basically, his eyes were closed. He looked like he was already gone, and she herself assumed that he was. It had been undercover officers that had intercepted those trucks. And so they were stopped, and she took pictures and video footage of everything that she witnessed. And she saw this dog hanging from the truck. He tried to force his head through the bars and got stuck, and he had dogs on top of him. And when she took the photo, it was the flash that caused him to open one eye. She realized, I know.
It still makes you cry.
It does me too, because even though I know that he's here now and I can touch him right now, you know, it's still really, really hard when you think how it could have gone. And for all these, I wish I had a magic wand. And, you know, it's that way where you think, my God, all those animals on board that truck, they had just been saved. Yes. But so many didn't make it. They had already passed.
It's too late.
It was just too late. I have all the photos that B took of the dogs that didn't make it, the dogs that did. And because there had been so many interceptions made around that time, it worked out that there was around 3,000 dogs.
Oh.
So
Yikes.
you can only imagine the chaos
Yeah.
that when you have feed troughs that, you know, it literally
And where do you
is
put all these dogs? I mean, like,
survival of the fittest. It's like cattle barns.
yes.
So you've got feed troughs, so they would run in and throw the food in, and they've got big vats of water. But knowing Miracle and the dog that he is,
yeah.
I just know that he would not want, despite the fact that he was so seriously ill, even if he had had time to collect his thoughts, maybe get a drink, maybe feel a little bit more strength, he's the type of dog that would keep his head down and stay well out of trouble. So I do believe that he's taken himself into a corner somewhere. Yeah. And he's just stayed away and
let me try to
anyone.
Find safety, but let me lay low, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. And, you know, we have to say that, you know, these trucks, you know, the journey is brutal as brutal can be. These dogs are already like strays. Often they're strays taken, snatched off the streets. They have no food, no water. They're pressed upon each other, like cages upon cages. The weight of the cages often breaks their limbs. I mean, it's horrible situation.
Or to give you an example, to this day, Coco does not allow you to touch her tail. For any length of time, because the little dogs that are stolen pets and easy to catch, they're lifted by the tail and thrown in the cages. So Coco and Bliss now go to the groomer, and she is absolutely fantastic with them. They're used to her, so they allow her.
But you found a good one.
It was years before I would even contemplate taking them to the groomers. So, you know, my poor dogs they looked like something out of a movie gone wrong. You know, someone that thought they would try.
Or you're like, I'm not going to test it. I'm not going to.
Awful.
Yeah, I'm not going to put them through that. Yeah.
No, and I didn't want to. So, so I just attempted to do it myself, you know, for a good few years. But yeah, Coco does not like her tail to be touched for any longer than you have to. But yeah, it's just absolutely brutal the way that the dogs were handled. And I that's part of me that I think Coco was in that place, Bliss was in that place, Miracle was in that place. And I've often said to B that, I mean, I was supposed to go to Thailand before the pandemic.
I know.
And that kind of plan.
Put a wrench in our plans, eh?
We had a trip planned together that we were going to do stuff together over there. And one of the things that I wanted to do was see if it was possible, if we would be allowed permission to actually go to NP shelter, because I feel compelled that I've got a pull to go there. Yeah. You know?
I know.
Yeah.
And me too, actually. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I had planned to go to China in 2020. Since I started the podcast, it was in the fall of 2019. I interviewed many groups, different NGOs, and some of them invited me. They said, you know, it would be great for you to come. And I wanted, you know, I want to not just like look at the situation on Facebook. I want to help make a difference. I want to see, you know, with my own eyes, you know, the situation and experience it, because it's something that you cannot experience on social media, right? It's something, you know, volunteer my time, whatever I can do. I'm already a volunteer with a Humane Society International because they have a local office here in Montreal, but you know, what a great experience, where an enriching experience. And, you know, you could take and, you know, footage and, you know, be a voice over here and, you know, inform people. Yeah. But, you know, COVID is also a catalyst. And we're going to talk about that later, because as bad as it has been for everyone, and there's been some losses, and and I feel terrible for the families that have lost their loved ones to this virus, but it's also an opportunity to awaken to the realities that it's going to continue. These pandemics, we're not going to see the last one of it unless we make some changes. And our relationship to animals is so unhealthy that it's not normal for any animal to be in those kind of conditions, crammed together. Of course, there'll be viruses. And of course, as long as we keep up these practices, we're going to be...
It's a breeding ground.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so going back to Miracle, and so you started raising funds. You saw the story. You said he's alive. B was there, and she was trying to locate the dog from the many dogs that were taken off those trucks, and it was difficult, right? It was quite,
It was a challenge because, I think that because she was going and she was visiting, she was on her own when she was doing this. And
wow.
she would take pictures of dogs and give them profiles, and they would all get a number. She would test them for distemper. And you had people all over the world that wanted to adopt these dogs.
Yeah.
So this is why she continued to do the work that she did. But I think the problem was that when you've got approximately, for example, 3,000 dogs in one huge area, they're always on the move.
And a lot of them look alike, let's be honest.
That's right.
A lot of them look alike.
They do.
Oh,
and this is the problem that we ran into because, it was 2 months before she found Miracle. And there was other dogs in the process that, you would get some people have opinions say, I think that's the dog that was hanging from the truck.
Yes.
And me being me, I would think, what if no one else wants this dog? I know it's not him. I know it's not this dog, because we didn't know if Miracle was male or female at that.
You didn't want to say,
time.
oh, no, it's not him. Keep looking. And then that poor dog.
Yeah. And then that dog's gone. So what I kind of said was, right, okay, everyone's raising funds and everyone's donating to this cause.
Yeah.
What about, how does everyone feel if the dogs that people are highlighting, why don't we have them rescued as well? But we keep on doing this fundraising.
Yeah.
So we did. And so there was about 5 that people, thought, oh, that's maybe the dog. And I said, look, okay, if everyone's okay with this, we'll pull this one out. B, can you take this one and that one?
Yeah.
So there was about 5 dogs in total. And in fact, one of them was pronounced dead a couple of weeks later and turned up in a Thai shelter.
Oh my God.
Just a few years ago. And she's now in the States. She was adopted.
She was pronounced dead at the time, and then she turned up. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was all to do with, I think, the paperwork and the numbers and, the codes that they were given, and there was mistakes made. So, so she turned up, but there was another dog that had died in the process. So, a couple of those dogs went to Canada as well.
Oh, that's good.
They did.
Yeah,
They did.
that's good.
Yeah.
So you're spearheading this fundraiser, trying to rescue as many dogs as you could. And your intent was never to adopt Miracle.
No,
it was just to get him to safety and fostered or adopted by another family.
I think at that point, if I had said to my husband, another one.
Oh, I know, because you're already at 2, right? He said, okay,
well, I
told you 1 Romanian dog, 1 from Thailand, but now you're pushing it.
Yeah. So it was kind of that situation. And then the more time went on, and we realized, because when Miracle was finally rescued and she found him, what had happened was, it was the ironic thing about it was, I turned on the laptop and his face was right in front of me, and I said, oh my God, it's him. But someone else had asked to pull him from the shelter.
Okay.
And I said, this is the dog that I've been looking for.
Yeah.
So we had talks, and I said, this is the dog that I've been raising the funds for. It was 2 German ladies that were trying to help.
Oh my God.
And so anyway, I had been raising all these funds, and so they were happy to let me sort of take over, because I had been doing this, you know, right from the get-go.
They understood. Yeah, they understood.
Yeah. So it then sort of transpired that all the, you know, the other dogs were rescued, sort of 4 or 5 in total as well. Miracle had blood parasites, which is really common, you know, in Thailand, you know, when the dogs are rescued.
For street dogs, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he had Demodex. His skin was so bad, and
That's
it had obviously, with the heat and the humidity over
it made
there,
it that much worse.
Yeah. He was in a really bad way, worse than the pictures that you saw in the truck.
I know, But
yeah.
how did you really recognize him? Because you had never met him in person, but somehow you
I had studied the
Oh,
pictures
yeah,
from me to every little scab, every little
detail,
star, you know, everything. And I just knew, it was him.
Wow.
And so, you know, everyone sort of said at that point, you really should be the one that adopts this dog. And I said, oh, no, I can't say to my husband that I'm going to adopt another one. And as time went on and the months went on, I just felt so, you know, it was almost like it was a telepathy. I always speak about this, that I just felt that there was such a connection. You know, I know that sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. But you know, obviously.
I just fell for him. I just, you know, I really.
There was something there, and there was a reason why you had to rescue him. And so those 5 dogs you were raising funds for, they all went to the UK, or no? You mentioned they went to Canada.
No. So one dog died. And there had been a mix-up in the paperwork. So the one that I had actually had pulled, she turned up in a Thai shelter a few years on, and I now believe that she's in America somewhere.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the woman was in touch. Actually, I did contact her, and it was great to know that, you know, she was
and the other people that were participating in raising funds with you, did they adopt some of them, or were you the only one?
No, they just yeah.
Oh, they just wanted to help.
So 2 went to the same home in Canada, and they actually went to Rebecca, my friend who travelled to Romania.
Yes, you mentioned her in your book.
Yeah.
So one of them went to Rebecca.
2 of them went to Rebecca, and she found them homes.
Oh, wow. What about this Canadian lady? Is it a Canadian lady or man? Or can you tell us the name, or they don't want to?
Well, I haven't even mentioned this to her, but I'm sure she would be absolutely fine about it. But
well, we can edit it out if ever she's not.
Yeah. She basically was someone who saw me on social media. She was born in the UK. But she married and lives in just outside Toronto. And so she had saw you know, some of my posts about little Scarlett O'Hara, my first Romanian rescue dog. And she thought this was great, and she just started to get involved in animal rescue, and she'd rescued animals from other parts of the world because her husband was ex-military, so they moved around a lot. So she was aware of a lot of issues and the lack of animal welfare laws in many countries.
Can you say her name? We'll edit it out if she's not comfortable.
Her name's Rebecca Ashworth. Rebecca Ashworth.
Rebecca Ashford. Okay. So and she lives Ashford.
Ashworth.
Ashworth. Okay,
Yeah,
Ashworth,
yeah.
like she's worthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Rebecca Ashworth, well, she is definitely worthy. And it's always nice to see other Canadians, because fellow Canadians, be involved and help the cause. Because like I said, when I first heard about this in Montreal, and Montreal's very progressive. I mean, people, you would think they would know about it, but no, a lot of people don't. To this day, so it's always surprises me. But great for Rebecca Ashworth, but we'll make sure that she's okay with it.
I'll ask if she's okay with that. Well, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, that journey, Miracle had been in Thailand at this point for 9 some months before he was able to travel. I think they stopped in Amsterdam. Is that where you picked him up?
Yeah, they did. The way that worked is that he spent the majority of that time in the clinic, and so there's also a weird thing that no one can really explain here that I'm going to touch on, and I make reference to this in the book as well. That Miracle has this tattoo.
Yeah, I know.
In his ear.
Yeah.
And normally, places like Soy Dog Foundation, if rescue organizations were doing a sterilization campaign of street dogs, they would sterilize. And then it would normally be a tag or a tattoo with different organizations. But when Miracle was rescued, he had that tattoo. He already
inside
had
his
that
ear?
tattoo. And he was still an entire male. He hadn't
he was not neutered.
So, I mean, many years ago, I went to an event that Soy Dog held in England, and obviously took Miracle along, and John Daly had a look at the tattoo, and he said, "Not one of ours. I can't explain it."
No, it's a little scary.
Yeah, it makes me wonder a lot of things.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, there's all sorts of things happening underground, right? Dog fighting. God knows what the purpose of that tattoo was, but
well, it makes you wonder. I mean, I know that certainly I've met people that have Korean jindos, and not from the meat trade, and they spoke about the fact that Jindo Island, they kept the gene pool very, very tight. And then when there was a bridge, and then the dogs start to wander, or if dogs didn't make the breeding program, or their ear set wasn't right, or their tail were, there was
something. There was a flaw.
They would sell them to meat traders. So that's what I've been told. But, many people just refer to Miracle and say, oh, no, he's a Thai dog. He's just a Thai street dog through and through. But
I think he looks a lot like a Jindo.
He does.
I agree.
I must send you a picture, actually, that I've got Jindos in the UK that aren't from the meat trade, that one of them has had pictures taken with Miracle. And he looks more Jindo than she does.
Wow, there you go.
And she's a purebred.
This little face, it screams Jindo to me too. So, and actually I had a great organization. They're called Jindo Love Rescue. On the podcast.
I know of them. I know
they're
who they
wonderful, wonderful work they do, all volunteers. And it hasn't been published yet, but I would assume when I spoke to her about, the trade, and, I was going to have you on the show, she agreed, like, that's like, for them, it's a typical Jindo, like but we'll never know the true story. But anyways, when people read the story, it's very touching, because you talk about a Miracle being brought to Amsterdam, and you met him there, and you took a trip.
it was flight volunteers that kindly brought him from Thailand, along with other dogs that were, you know, from the meat trade as well.
Yeah.
And I still keep in touch with their owners too. And we actually met at the ferry port. You know, they came across on the ferry from Amsterdam.
Yes.
And I met him, and then the plan was that, and I'd done this before, that we got the Caledonian sleeper train up to Scotland. That was the plan. So, I mean, I didn't know how this dog was going to be, but you know, as soon as I met him, it was just, there was that connection. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's like that feeling like you're going on a date. I know this is maybe not the right reference to use, but it's that butterflies in the stomach. You know, I'd wanted to meet this dog for so long.
I know.
And 9 months later, I was almost scared to touch him, you know, because I didn't want to freak him out. And it was actually a friend that drove us to the station. We all went in the car, and we all had dogs with us, you know. And we went to Euston Station, and he was on my lap, you know, in the car. And then we got to the station. I had everything organized, all his food, and for, you know, everything overnight. And I knew that once we got in that cabin, that was his safe space. And I wasn't going to force him to sit next to me, or, you know, he had his blankets that he could be on the floor. And I remember the track change, and, you know, it moved him, and he got up. And it was almost like, oh, I feel really uneasy, and you seem like safety to me. So he scrambled up on the bed beside me and just snuggled in. And that's been it. You know, I mean,
I was crying reading that part of the book. I was like, oh my God, I would feel exactly like you. You were so invested at that point into this dog, and to think he was safe from the brink of death, you know, like, and to see him finally before your eyes. I mean, that's a very special moment. Yeah, very special. And so I got to ask you, I know you said that your husband was more or less on board, but I guess you had some way of convincing him that, you know, we're going to adopt Miracle. And how did that work out?
I think he knew. I think he knew what was coming. And at that point, it was, you know, he just kind of caved in and said, you're going to do it. If I, you know, regardless of what I say. We all know that. He knew how much time I'd spent on trying to help these dogs. So, you know, he knew from the get-go that I've always wanted, over the years, you know, since he met me, that I always wanted to work with animals in some shape or form. And, you know,
he's been supportive of that, you know.
Yeah, he has.
In spite of some very difficult circumstances. I mean, that's why I say people should read your book, because there's a lot more to the story than what we're going to talk about today. Yeah. But, you know, it's amazing that you guys support each other through this, you know, and it's not been easy. It would not be easy for anyone. But, you know, that's great, because it's important that everyone be on the same page, right? Like when you especially adopt a traumatized dog like that, everyone needs to participate and to be on board. And you do mention that there was an aversion to, you know, men, and especially cigarette smoke, which makes a lot of sense, because, you know, or
baseball caps, things like that.
Because the dog,
and it's okay for me to wear one. It was okay for me to wear one.
Oh, okay, it's just the men. Him. Yeah. Okay.
So he had to stop. You know, just silly little things. You know, I mean, when we are working around with the other dogs, you know, I've always got boots on, caps on, hair scraped back. But he did have to make a lot of changes. He couldn't approach Miracle.
No
Miracle
way.
had to,
It took a while.
Oh my God! If Miracle walked in the room and Tobias, if he had to pass Tobias, Tobias would get up and walk to a further away point in the room so that Miracle could pass that point. You know, it really,
without having to get close to him. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is a funny kind of scene that was in Sex and the City all those years ago. But, you know, Samantha is waiting on her boyfriend coming home and she's covered in sushi.
Remember that. I think I remember that.
Tobias has actually had to lay on the floor with food around him.
So that he could be approachable.
To come close. Yeah. And, you know, he wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't.
Still, no.
Oh, not even the lure of good food.
Nope. Nope. Nothing. He was absolutely so traumatized by, you know, certain situations that we had
gotten better.
Oh, really good now.
Yeah.
I mean, it took about a year.
Okay.
And it was just a case of, I mean, every animal's different. I've had rescue dogs that have walked into the house like they've always been here.
Yeah, they rebound very quickly.
Kind of muscle in past anyone else, trying to be a little bit dominant. But you know, everyone's different in the way you have to give them time to adjust. But Miracle would jump over furniture if he felt, you know, threatened in any shape or form.
Well, understandably, and I think anyone who chooses to adopt a survivor of the menagerie, they need to be very patient. And you're not getting a typical dog, and in some cases you do, like, you know, in some cases the dog is like, okay, I'm ready, you know, like but you know, every case is different and you have to be willing to put in the work and the time. And it might be the case, and actually Jindal Love Rescue, they talk about that. They say to their adopters, they like, you may never be able to touch this dog, you know, like in the same way that you would touch another dog. And you have to be okay with that, you know, like if not, you know, it might not be the right fit, you know, like you have to really be there for the dog's interests, and what's best for him has to trump everything else, you know. And we see that, you know, you've clearly given him enough space, so now he feels safe, and even around Tobias. So
I think that certainly the way from my perspective and my experience is that a lot of people have said to me, oh, you've done amazing work with this dog. And I'm not even referring to Miracle, I'm referring to other rescue dogs that I have.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's not always me that's done it. It's the fact that the other dogs have taught them how to be a dog again. Because often what happens is they do have to learn how to be a dog because they have no idea what they're supposed to do. So spending time, the most traumatized dogs, you know, having them mix and part of a pack, I can honestly say I have got, you know, a really happy pack that run around. You know, they have their grumbles, and you know, there's been issues over the years, but all in all, it's been great. You know, the dogs have all really tolerated each other really, really well. And you know, I think that's a testament to how they handle and how their coping mechanisms work without human intervention. You know,
they have their own,
a little helping nudge in certain areas. But in a lot of these occasions, it's the dogs that actually help the others blossom.
I believe that, because I mean, animals have their own language, their own intelligence, and sometimes the best thing you can do is just get out of the way and let them, you know, figure it out. So that's great. And I just want to touch one last thing on Miracle. You said he has a really bad skin condition. It's gotten better over the years, but can you tell us a little bit more what that skin condition is and how you treated it? And
well, I mean, you get there's Demodex mange, which it's not infectious. It's something that, you know, the parasites are deep down in the skin. And a lot of that over there was they would give them washes and treatments and medication, and you know, me personally, over the years, I've always given my dogs vitamin E.
Yes.
Always done that, and salmon oil as well.
Yeah.
And the
For
two
their
marry.
coat.
Yeah, the two marry really well together. They work well in the body together. So, I would give them supplements, and just it was just time. He did have one really bad flare up when I thought things were calming down.
Yeah.
And almost, I didn't see the signs. There would be patches of hair that were, his coat would start to thin out a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was telltale signs that there was something going on. But yeah, we would get just medication, just a spot on from the vet.
Wow.
And also made sure that we wormed him regularly,
Yes.
with a strong wormer from the vet.
Yeah.
And that was just...
And it helps that he's not in humid, hot temperatures all the time, like in Thailand, because that, even people that have eczema or other skin conditions and really worsen.
That humidity is just, like I said earlier on, it's a breeding ground for, all sorts of problems. They never get a rest from it when the dogs have got skin conditions like that. It's just always, it takes a long time to heal.
For sure. And he's so beautiful today. Like, everyone can see him, like his skin. Is he still hanging out?
I don't know where.
Oh,
You're going to come up here.
He's such a...
say hello.
Oh my God, that face. That face stole the heart of millions.
And, as soon as she can't reach because her legs are so much shorter, the little halo here.
Yeah.
She always wants to get in on the action as well.
Oh, yes. If Miracle's doing something, she's got to be part of it.
Well, that's why I've got the two of them together at the moment, because he's really helped her along.
Yes.
She lived on the streets in China. She'd given birth numerous times. She was in a province that was notorious for meat traders.
Harbin? Or no? Henan, yes.
And so she would go and get food and give it to the other dogs that were too nervous to go to the students to get food. She's a great dog, but I truly believe, and they say that dogs can get forms of autism, and I truly believe that she's like that.
Oh, wow.
She's got a lot of issues, but she absolutely adores Miracle, and he seems to have this, he had this sense of calm with other dogs that have been introduced over the years. And with Halo, I mean, you saw them play earlier on. They had so much
amazing.
Fun.
That
And
first with your son Kyle, who has
Yeah.
autism, and now
Yeah.
Halo, who might, we suspect have something similar. And Miracle is always the one that makes...
He's the mediator in every given situation. He's
and
everyone loves him.
Well, no kidding.
In amongst the dogs.
What's not to love?
The dogs, they all do tend to... I remember years ago, I'd brought one of the dogs from Romania, Phoenix, and Phoenix had actually, there's no easy way to say it, somebody had attempted to partially skin Phoenix.
Oh my God.
And he had a total of 3 operations, and he's now one of the most happy, mischievous boys. He really is.
Oh my God.
But when he kind of came here and he went through the surgeries and he felt a lot better, he thought that he would just try and push that dominance boundary a little bit more.
Yeah.
And thought that he would have a little word in Miracle's ear. And I tell you, that day I've never seen anything like it. The 2 Thai girls, the 2 pretty little ladies that look like they should wear bows and
best behavior.
They nailed him. They nailed Phoenix.
No
and they
way.
flipped a medium-sized dog, flipped him on his back and stood on him. Just stood on him. and growled.
Like, no, sir, this is not going to work.
Yeah, you do not challenge Miracle.
Oh,
And, you know, from that moment, there was never an issue.
no,
The girls
see?
stepped in and they fixed
You got to
it.
let them work it out, though.
Yeah.
And Halo, you say she comes from Hainan. That's in the north
Yeah.
of China, I believe, eh? So
That's, well, it's actually, I had them move to Beijing. They had to go down to Henan to get her, and it was around a 16-hour trip.
oh,
I think
okay.
it was to go and get them. And she still had 2 puppies at the time.
Oh,
So I had 3 of them moved to Beijing,
wow.
and until I could get over and go and collect them. But sadly, my requests that I had made to have everyone neutered and spayed, they had spayed Halo, but they didn't spay the son and daughter.
Oh.
So
They made it?
before I got to China.
Mm,
So I brought them back
yeah.
and thought, all this food that I'm giving them, you know, they're all gaining weight. They all look amazing. They all look great. They look really healthy. And then one day, it was that light bulb moment. And I thought, I don't like this shape. And I took Halo's daughter to the vet.
Yeah.
They scanned her, and she said she's in her final trimester. So on October 7th,
Oh my God.
they had got the year in August, and on
Okay.
October 7th, I delivered the puppies.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you've done that before?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I delivered them. I had to try
How
and
many?
resuscitate the first 2. There were 6, and 3 made it. 3 made it. You know, in the first sort of 24 hours, it was really tough. So, but she was I tell you, she was a perfect little mum. She'd never been a mum before. And she just knew instinctively what to do. So we did it together, you know.
Oh, wow.
And the vet was on the end of the phone, and, you know.
And you still have the whole lot.
Yeah, I do. We kept them because, and then the pandemic hit, and, you know, it wasn't their fault. I had requested that rescuer did what I asked to do, and it wasn't done. And, you know, me being me, you know, I promised my husband they're all going to get homes. And then obviously things happened and evolved, and then there was a pandemic, and, you know, and this is, they look upon this as their home, you know.
It's hard, eh? At this point, it's a bit too late.
Yeah. So,
God bless Tobias.
I mean, the you know, the thing is though, Jade, the vet couldn't tell me when she was going to give birth. She just said, I can only guess.
Oh, wow. So you had no idea. Like,
I had no idea. I didn't have an indication. And I had her out that morning, and we're walking around the dog exercise area, the yard that we've got here. And I had her on the lead, and she started to pant quite heavily. And I thought,
this could
and then there was a few other signs, and I thought, I had everything ready. You know, she had one room in the house that was dedicated to her.
You knew it was coming.
So I had to be prepared, and it was that day. You know, I think Tobias was out at work, and I had to say, the first one's here.
Well, on top of everything else you do, now you're a midwife. That's amazing. Like, these stories keep, you know, surprising me, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised. And so when did you decide to write this book? Because I know that, you know, from reading it, you felt compelled to tell the story, and you felt it would, you know, help raise awareness, obviously. The book came before Britain's Got Talent, or did it come?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the book was back. in 2015, when Kyle and Miracle won Friends for Life,
Yes.
they were given, funds, and I had to choose the charity that I wanted the funds to go to. So I actually donated, I think it was about £750 to Soy Dog Foundation, and £750 to the Autistic Society as well.
Yes.
So I did that, and then I was actually approached, had I ever thought about writing a book, and I'd always wanted to write a book. In fact, I'd love to do 2 more. I've got ideas that I would, really like.
I'm hoping this is not the last one. Yeah.
And yeah, so I was asked by Penguin Books, would I consider maybe doing a book. So that's kind of where that came from.
About.
So it was tough to do, because it was in a lot of ways you're reliving things, and things that you've maybe buried and you've put in the past.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the memory tries to protect you from things, and then a trigger just all of a sudden brings it all back.
Absolutely. That's the case. And I do yoga, and that's a fact. Like, it's almost a scientific fact. I would say that we have a cellular memory. And sometimes I would start, I did Ashtanga yoga, and you have many levels, many series. And as you progress, you open up different parts of your body, and it comes, at the surface, things that you put in the back of your mind, they resurface. And
that's right.
And that's how you deal with it. That's how you move past it, is you have to, confront it, move through it, and then the healing happens. But yes, I can imagine writing a book like this was not easy, because you cover a lot of painful moments in your life, and it's not easy to relive that, right? So, but your next 2 books that you have in mind, would it be? Can you tell us a little hint about what you have in mind?
I can't. I would say that the next one, that a lot of people might be surprised in, is the next one wouldn't be going down the same route as the first.
It'll be a departure.
It would still involve animals, but not quite in the same way as the first.
I'm already curious.
But you never know what the third one would be anyway, so we'll see. I need to adopt more dogs.
Yes.
For there to be a third one.
And when can we expect this? Like, any idea? Or
I'm working. It's something that it's a work. It's a work.
It's coming up, but we can't give out too many details. And I just want to take a moment to highlight your time on Britain's Got Talent, because it certainly went a long way. I mean, this is how I heard about your story, and so many, and how many people heard about the dog meat trade. So you did an amazing thing leveraging that show, because a lot of the audience are not necessarily people that are into animal welfare, right? So it's like a mass wide audience, children, families, all sorts of people. And I know from your book that, somebody kind of suggested it, and then you just, or you had the idea. Like, how did that come about?
I basically had the idea. I had always wanted to do agility and tricks with key dogs here. And, wondered if Miracle would get involved, because some of the other dogs would just take to it like a duck to water, and it wasn't until I'd actually spoken to someone who in her field is absolutely amazing, and she trains dogs and does heel work to music, and her dogs do all these amazing tricks. And I'd run a few ideas past her and said, I'd really like to try this with them. And I said, now bear in mind, this is an older dog. He's not a puppy. that I'm trying to train. And generally, the rule of thumb is you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So I beg to differ now, so they say. But he's proved that. You know, I mean, Miracle must be around 8 years old. He has to be.
Today? He
must be around 8. And I kind of had these ideas and thought, maybe I'm just chasing, you know, something that just isn't there.
Yeah.
So I had her take a look at him, and we tried him with a few different tricks and things that I'd taught him at home.
Yeah.
And she taught him a few tricks. And I said, look, you really need to be honest with me. Do I just give up on this? Or
is there
what?
something? Yeah.
And she said, he has got, for a dog that is an older dog and he's had no training, she said, he's got a great work ethic.
Yeah.
So no, don't give up on him. So I started to, we hired somewhere locally that I would take him and I would set everything up and I would do all these, lots of room, no distractions at home, you know, so it was just, you know, Miracle and myself. And we would go there for 2-3 hours and just work and do stuff. So, and then I decided that I would apply to Britain's Got Talent. And they loved his story and everything about him.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of just went from there. It was a long process. It wasn't something that happened overnight at all.
Yeah.
And we just worked together. And in fact, we made the semi-final, but we didn't include all the tricks that he's been taught. So he's, you know, he had way more in the tank. And it's just, it would have been great if we had been able to showcase that, because he does have still a few tricks.
He's a talented little fella.
He is. He is. Sometimes I feel like I'm his PA. You know, he's the one that walks in, and he's the pro. You know, he walks in and he just has this this aura about him. But when he walks in somewhere and he thinks there's something special going on, it's like he saw that you were trying to strike up this conversation with me. He knew, and he was thinking, she's up to something. There's, you know,
he's got
this is
something.
media. This is
This is not an ordinary dog.
No, he's not. And you know, he goes on stage and it is literally, if he thinks I'm nervous, it's like he does something to take my mindset off that.
Wow.
You know?
On top of it, he tries to make it okay with you. Oh my God.
He's just absolutely amazing. And you know, he blew me away with what he was capable of doing at that point.
Yeah.
He really did.
But you were semi-finalist, which is huge because I mean, this is a big show, right? A lot of people apply, and you made it to the semi-finals. You did 2 acts with him, I believe, on the show.
There we are.
And
Now, Simon,
I think all in all, your original purpose with having him on the show was really to raise awareness. So you most certainly accomplished that. Do you feel like you're happy with, you know, the outcome and how it went, or like you said,
the pandemic really, you know, messed a lot up since the show. There may be a few things in the pipeline. You know, there's stuff going on that I can't go into.
Okay, hush, hush.
But but certainly, I mean, the experience from the beginning was just amazing. I turned up with the dogs to go to this audition. It's live. It's completely live. So you walk out into this theatre.
I'd be so freaking nervous.
Well, we were last on. They put us on the stage last. So we closed the show. We closed the whole Britain's Got Talent auditions. That was it, because it was between London and Manchester. So when we went in, we went onto the stage, and Alicia Dixon started to strike up conversation first. Now, here are a few weird things that that go with this story. So she's asking me about Miracle, and obviously this is edited out the show. And she was asking me about Miracle, you know, how old was he? Where did he come from? And what was the act going to be about? And then she said, I've seen him on TV before, haven't I? And I said, you may have done. And she says, hang on a second. She says, my mum painted him.
Oh.
And then I realised who her mum was, because her mum and I have been friends on social media for years.
And she
But
painted him. Yeah. I think you talk about that in your book. Yeah.
And in fact,
Is that the painting?
no, that one in the background
Yes.
is actually Braveheart from China.
Oh, yes, Braveheart.
So she had also painted her. So the strange sort of turn of events was that she recognized Miracle. She'd seen him on TV.
Yeah.
Knew her mum had painted him. She says, my mum was so inspired. And, you know, Simon's thinking, why don't I know about this?
Yeah.
But the story's got even funnier because not only did she paint Miracle, she painted Braveheart. When one of my little street dogs that I rescued when she was 10 years old from Romania, she survived another 6 years here. And she was a really old lady. And
she's is she a famous painter, or is she just
I can't really sort of say who her name is.
Oh, okay, no problem.
but she basically, as a gift, I got a parcel one day with no message or anything in advance that this was coming. So I'd got a painting of Braveheart, painting of Miracle over over those years, and then she painted this huge pebble, a memory stone, and painted Mia on it. And it sits by the fire. So once the audition was over, all the judges came up onto the stage, and Alicia got her phone out and she scrolled through her camera roll and she showed the judges and she said, look, this is the painting. I can prove it. And Simon hadn't realised that he'd already sent me a message when we went to an awards ceremony. And it was when Braveheart was picking up her award as Inspirational Animal of the Year from the Animal Hero Awards.
Oh, yes. You won a few awards. Yeah, that's right.
She won it. The dogs have won it. And this video link came up and it was Simon thanking me. But the irony was, through Braveheart's story, he donated, I think it was about $30,000 to Humane Society.
Yes, well, we all
through
saw
Braveheart's
that.
story.
Yeah.
You know,
and what's the Braveheart story? Is she from Thailand as well?
No, Braveheart actually was rescued by Fight Dog Meat.
Fight Dog Meat in Vietnam?
Yeah, in China. In
China. Okay.
Yeah.
They work a lot in Vietnam, but China as well.
That's right. That's right. And I got a call from Michelle Brown to say, look at this video, look at this dog. And I remember she sent me the video footage just before Christmas. And that Christmas, I could not take my mind off this dog at all.
Oh my gosh, she had the good timing. Eh?
And yeah, so that's kind of the way that worked out. I mean, Braveheart, her prosthetic limbs are all bought and paid for. Derek Campana agreed that he was going to, from Animal Ortho Care and the Wizard of Paws, he agreed that he's going to do the prosthetics, but Braveheart is terrified of vets. She absolutely she's not good around vets, and we actually we've had vets come and do house calls, and we actually changed vets because even the vets that we were registered with were huge men. Huge.
Oh, you need a tiny lady.
They couldn't get near her.
Oh,
so
wow.
The only reason Braveheart doesn't have her little prosthetic limbs yet is because Tobias and I can't take the molds. We've got the plaster of Paris molds that Derek sent us the kit.
Yeah.
That didn't work, so we had to go and buy more. Did all of that. We're now going to have to bite the bullet and have her put under sedation. So
yeah, that's the only way.
And I didn't want to do it because it was the pandemic, and there was all these rulings around. You can't be with your animal. You've got to hand the dog over to us.
Oh no!
She wouldn't cope. So so she's got her wheels that she doesn't like too much, to be perfectly honest.
She prefers to be without them, right? So
yeah, but I mean, you know, you do worry in case she gets any sort of trauma and things like that. So she's she kangaroo hops on her back two legs, and
we saw her. I think, was she not on the stage?
She was on the stage.
She was on the stage.
She was on the stage as well.
And she came after Miracle, or you've got so many dogs.
She was after Miracle.
Yeah, that's why they probably said, "Oh, we know the right woman for this dog." Careful there, like keep some for other people, right? Tobias is like, yes, please. Okay. And so now I do want to touch upon COVID-19 because, as I mentioned earlier, I think as you know, devastating as it's been, it did, bring about a lot of awareness, and it's like kind of the perfect platform to initiate change. And especially in those countries, I mean, China, yes, we all know that it likely came from a wet market in Wuhan. But not just China, all every country in the world needs to re-examine their animal agricultural practices and live animal markets. As I discovered, we have some a little bit everywhere. Even in New York State, I think they have 80 live animal markets. That was a bit of a shocker for me, I'll be honest. But apparently, they have live, chickens. You can order it and say, I want that chicken. And, that's how it is. And, obviously, Dr. Fauci came very quickly on and urged countries to shut down these live animal markets. They're the perfect breeding ground for viruses like COVID. And I would love to get your opinion a little bit about the announcements that we saw out of China. So I think it was in April of 2020 that China's Ministry of Agriculture announced that they were going to revise their livestock list, post COVID-19. So what animals, they actually open it up to public opinion. And so they came out with a new post-COVID-19 whitelist catalog of livestock. And they made a point of saying that dogs, were recognized as companion animals and were not to be slaughtered for food. And so that, obviously was welcome news. A lot of organizations I interviewed at the time said it was great. It was like almost like a game changer to declare dogs as pets. But then, the activist side of things, people were like really quick to say, well, they were never on the livestock list. The dog cat meat trade operates outside, of animal agriculture. It has nothing to do with animal agriculture. It's really a trade in and of itself. And so they were like, what difference is it going to make? And I don't know how you reacted to the news. What was your take on it?
I think, around that time, obviously I'd been approached to do a story with the South China Post that was going to be timed in conjunction with Yulin. And it's a similar situation as well. Everyone thinks every single year there's been announcements. Yulin's not going to happen. And you're thinking, yeah, it is. But what's happening is the animals are being slaughtered out with and then brought into the markets, a little bit different from previous times before where it was happening there and then. In front of,
is that the difference? Because it did go on in 2020 and we were like, what?
It is. From what I was told is that it's happening, out with Yulin itself, and then the animals are
the finished product.
Basically, and there's no way to sugarcoat that really. And I think that knowing the work that the World Dog Alliance do, and they're based in Hong Kong, and they've managed to make great changes, but because China is so big, you're kind of dealing with province by province, aren't you? It's not a generalization of one law is going to be made and adhered to, because each province is different and they all have to agree for something to actually really make change going forward. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's
and today, still in 2021, it's still happening. The Yulin Festival, although we will say that it has dwindled down quite a bit. It used to be a 10-day festival. And through my conversations with many, they said, well, now it's more like 2-3 days. Doesn't last as long.
The way I see it is it happens 365 days
Oh,
of the year.
Of course.
And this is something that is, something that's in the calendar that, to me, it's a frenzy. It's just, that's the way I see it. I feel really somber each year. And you've got Yulin, and then you've got the Boknal Festival in Korea as well. So it's
I think it's the fact that it's called a festival. Like, you associate celebration, happy times, and yet,
I just refer to it as a frenzy. To me, it's only the fact that it's highlighted, but it's going on every single day of the year.
Yeah, it's like kind of a nose up to us, like it's offensive to many people, including Chinese, including many Chinese. I mean, we have to remember that it's, I think, about 10% of the Chinese population that consumes dog meat regularly. Some, like they've had surveys, reveal that, the statistics, the majority of Chinese people are against this. And so it's the fact that it keeps continuing, and in spite of the year that saw the global pandemic, I thought for sure that's the end of Yulin right then and there. But also going back to that directive from the China's Ministry of Agriculture, it's not a law, it's a directive, and so if somebody's caught selling dog meat, what happens? It's not a law, so you're like, there's no penal, it's not in the penal code. There's no penalties defined. So I guess people feel like, well, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. This is my way of earning a living. And a lot of the dog meat traders, they come from poorer regions, like the dog meat trade itself is done in more remote areas. And so this is their way of living, and I think
they also do that. what I was made aware of when I was in China is that it's frowned upon, or it's said to be illegal in certain places.
Okay.
But they do little pop-up markets where they'll turn up unannounced.
Oh.
And maybe locals that like dog meat are around in that area at specific times, but they don't know for sure these people are going to turn up. But I know that happens.
Wow.
I know that happens.
And when we say the province that outlawed it, it's like Shenzhen. I think the city of Shenzhen and then Zhuhai, they came about at the same time. They said as of May 1st, it was illegal. Are you talking about those cities that have?
No.
Okay. And then there was Leishi. That was the third city that banned dog cat meat. And that was good because, as I understand, the ban is really both on the consumption and slaughter. So like, it's, because if the consumption is not outlawed, then anyone can just kill a dog and eat it, right? So it's both, and that's important. And coming back to my own country, there's no law against slaughtering dogs and cats and eating them. And I think
that this is the thing. I mean, when I was invited to go down to the Houses of Parliament when World Dog Alliance hosted an event there.
Yes.
If you say to people in the country, if you said to people in Canada, or if I say to people here that people are eating dog and cat, they would say, You're nuts.
Mad? Are you mad?
What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. And people don't realize that when you have so many different cultures, living together, that people want to practice how they've maybe been raised as a child.
Yes.
So this is what I liked about the way World Dog Alliance are doing it. It's literally going via various different governments, country by country, and trying to sort of raise as much awareness and target it that way.
Is that so your involvement with World Dog Alliance, like how is it that you collaborate together? They contacted you? Or?
Yeah, they basically they were aware of what I did with Miracle, and they had invited me to Parliament. Sadly, unless you're a service dog or assistance dog,
you can't.
Dogs aren't allowed in Parliament, but they would have loved for him to have been there. I mean, it basically just sort of transpired that they were looking for Miracle to maybe help out on certain UK campaigns and highlight certain issues. And then obviously, after Britain's Got Talent, that was, they were contacted by the Chinese journalists in order for me to do a story over there as well. And it just, it seemed like a good idea, that Miracle could front anything that they kind of needed in UK. But it's surprising how many countries do eat dog, but it's not, when you say it's in the country of origin that you live in, people just think that it's absolutely
crazy.
mad.
But it's apart from the US, and I have to give all my thanks to a lot of activists in the US, some nonprofits that really worked tirelessly to get this law passed. And that's HR 6720. It outlaws the consumption and slaughter of dogs and cats in the United States. And they did that also so that they could negotiate with countries where there is a prevalent dog cat meat trade. Because yes, it's random, cases where you see dog meat being consumed on Canadian soil. There's actually apparently underground operations in my city, Montreal, that was uncovered many years ago by someone, but we tried to reopen the case, hoping that something will come about, but there's no law against, so unless they catch them selling it to, for money, can't really do much about that. Like cruelty, well, we all know, as much as we appreciate the fact that we have animal welfare laws, they're always too lax. The SPCA is not empowered as they should be to seize dogs from certain owners that are abusive. So it's a very tough situation, but I'm like, if the US did it, we should be able to do it. But it really goes to show that you have to be relentless. You have to really keep working. It's a full-time job, you know. I've had activists come on my show, talk about their time spent going back and forth to Washington, D.C., keep trying to get more sponsors for this bill. And they really did make a miracle happen in some ways, because we can see Canada, also the UK tried to pass a similar law. And they were...
I think that's being approached again. I think they're approaching that one again. Because it's not about it being... They knocked that one out because it would be classed as being something that was some form of racism. And it's sensitive,
to the Chinese culture.
It's nothing, you know, about that. And I make a point of anything that I've done in the media as well, that if it weren't for the people in those countries that we are rescuing animals from, we wouldn't have them, because they're the ones that are literally dealing with it and on the front line, you know, rescuing those animals in their own countries, because they don't want it. So it's nothing about any sort of race or colour or creed whatsoever. It's about the fact that it's what is morally wrong and what these animals are enduring.
Absolutely. And you know, every country is guilty of their own practices with animals. I mean, we know factory farms is nothing unique. China has factory farms. We have factory farms. The ways that animals are treated is horrific. But the dog cat meat trade is, you know, just that much more, you know, brutal in many ways. I mean, we're talking about a country that has this belief that the more adrenaline that rushes through their blood, the dogs in particular, the better tasting the meat, the more medicinal benefits will come from eating the meat. And so it's that aspect that really, you know, lit up a fire in me, because, you know, if it was just the case that they would, you know, quickly kill the dog, painlessly, you know, obviously it would appease a lot of us, but that's not the case. You know, it's
I think what I say every single time, Jade, is it's not culture. It's torture.
It's torture.
There's nothing cultural about it.
No.
It's just sheer torture. You know the difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
And when you know that you're torturing something
that's crying
as much
out,
as you possibly can, that is begging for mercy.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a certain kind of mindset to do that.
And that was the thing I struggled with the most, to be honest. When I started the podcast, my one goal was like understanding, why are they torturing the dogs? Like, how long has this been going on? And with all my conversations, I understand that, you know, there was a part in history. I mean, China went through many famines. They were poor. And so understandably, you'll eat dogs. I mean, dogs were consumed in Europe, you know, during war times. And that's a different story. We're not talking about eating dogs out of desperation, out of, you know, necessity. This is a different kind of thing. And Dr. P.J. Lee, who's extremely well-versed in China politics and policies, he said, listen, the dog meat trade as we know it is new. It's a modern invention. It's nothing to do with culture or history. That is something completely new. And it was brought upon by dog meat traders because dog meat sales were waning. That's how the Yulin Festival came to be. It was to promote dog meat and try to boost sales of dog meat. And so the torture aspect, you know, I think a lot of them were trying to sell the benefits of eating dog meat. Why eat pork? You know, dog meat has this benefit, you know, you want to eat dog meat. And so it's all about that. It's commercial, you know, it's really a commercial endeavor. And so I always said on my podcast, and my guests reiterate it every time, it's not about shaming a country, it's about shaming a practice. And it's the dog meat trade that we're offended by. It's not the Chinese people, certainly not, and certainly not any country. It's really the practice that is despicable, and it has to stop. And like any animal welfare movement, we start with dogs and cats because those are, considered companion animals in most of the world, and parts of the world they're seen as food, but that's just a part of the world. And so if we can make progress happen with dogs and cats, I think we stand a much better chance of making a headway into other animal welfare issues, because there's no shortage of that,
I think that, given the fact that I've always kind of said, where there's money to be made, animals will always suffer. And for as much as I would love that magic wand, to say no more animal suffering, but to eradicate something, it's province by province, it's country by country to raise as much awareness to bring everyone on board. It really is. And I think that what we do have to remember as well, that it's not until you are in countries that have no animal welfare laws at all that it makes you realize how lucky we are. That we do have, organizations that do step in. For the greatest will in the world, they're not always going to get it right.
No.
But the fact is that they're there. And they do more good than bad.
It sets a moral compass for society, and getting back to what I was struggling with is like, how can someone do this? Like clearly, like you mentioned, we all have a little voice that speaks to us, and right from wrong. I mean, it's pretty simple to understand that a dog screaming in agony, you're doing something wrong, right? And I said, I couldn't understand, like, what is compelling these people to do this? And in my conversations, I've come to realize just exactly what you just said. I am so fortunate to have grown up in a country where there is some semblance of animal protection laws, and people have an understanding that, yes, dogs and cats, are considered companion animals, and if somebody sees a dog being abused, they're going to speak out and want to do something to help that dog. We have that understanding. We grow up with it. But in those countries, dog meat traders especially, they raise children in this. And you see your mom and dad engage in this practice. You see them killing dogs and cats and God knows what else. So it becomes normal. And you are desensitized from day one, right? And so once that desensitization has fully taken its hold on you, it's very hard to change your mind. At that point, you're like, but it's wrong. But they're like, this is all I've ever known.
The example you mentioned earlier about Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent really stuck their neck out and showed pictures of Miracle. They hanging from the truck. It's a kids show, people watch it, and you're going to get people that weren't happy about it. We got few complaints, to be fair, very few. Kids that were maybe upset and things like that. And you have to remember that, yes, it is a family show, but I love the fact that they did push that boundary and they showed that iconic picture. There were other pictures that they couldn't show, and there were dogs that I couldn't include in the routine. The dogs that I have here, that, for example, one of them has severe facial scars. He was a street dog in India, and it's there's only been one magazine in the UK. This is what I'm trying to sort of get across, that's when you realise that you're only allowed to say so much in the media for people to be protected. And in a way, yes, that's great. But you're going round in circles. Because in order to make change,
people have to realize the problem.
People have to take on board what is happening in order to get behind you to help.
Well, it also comes back to the fact that a lot of people on Facebook, they lost friends over the years because they would share the realities. And people are like, no, I don't want to see that. Like, that's negative. I don't burst my bubble. Like, I want to live in my bubble. I'm happy in my bubble. And, okay, ignorance is bliss. Yeah, that's true. But I will never...
So they say.
I'll never trade the knowledge that I've acquired, because as painful as it is to come to realize that this is possible, that people can be that heartless and cruel, it also motivates you to want to do something. And, if there has to be a greater purpose in our lives than going to work and earning some money to pay our bills and go on vacation. I mean, there's got to be something more to it than that. And I do feel like I have a calling. You have a calling, certainly, to be a voice for the voiceless. And we need to make change happen. And they are dependent on us. They need us to step it up and to make change happen. And we've got to engage as many people as possible. So that's why what you did on Britain's Got Talent is amazing, because it enlisted a whole new slew of supporters for this cause and for others. And it woke people up, hey, listen, this is happening, and it's happening in your own country. And maybe that will motivate you to want to push for legislation,
Yeah.
And
it
so
certainly had people look to adopt. I mean, I know that the ITV were inundated with, what can we do to help? How can we help? How can we adopt? But you have a situation now where all these requests were coming through. You're going through a pandemic. The last thing that you want to do is adopt anything, even if you could,
That's true.
Knowing that this was a problem, everyone going back to work. So many animals abandoned. So it's it was a bit of a double-edged sword, that one, really.
Yeah.
But I think, you're talking about motivation as well. And I think that, when you see little things like this.
Yeah. Oh, he's curled up in a ball. Is he sleeping? Do you think he's sleeping?
He is.
Oh, it's late for you guys. Oh my God.
And I think that, no, it's not late. But it's situations like that, that when you have dogs that they're asleep, or they're just chilling out and they're breathing easy. There's not that nervousness thinking, where's the next scrap of food coming from?
Who's going to attack me?
They know that they don't have to steal anything anymore, because food's always going to be plentiful, it's and who's going to hurt me is, I always say, animals, it doesn't matter where they are. I get asked all the time, why do you rescue from abroad? Well, you don't have the level of cruelty in the UK that you see in other places when there is no animal welfare guidelines at all. So when you have an animal that comes into your home and you see that they let the guard down, I always say, because I've got a lot of dogs, I'm surprised they've not done it actually while you've been on the phone, because they howl about 3-4 times a day.
Oh yeah, and, they're huskies.
But yeah, so we have a situation here where I always feel like I know when they've settled in completely, and they've realised that their home is that they join in the pack howl. So you'll maybe get, the sled dogs might start it, and then you get the rest of the rescues that think they're really good at howling, and some of them have mastered it quite well, and others cannot howl for toffee.
It's an embarrassment.
It's really bad. And I tell you who's one of the worst is Bliss. She is awful. She cannot howl at all. But I always think that there's that day where it's almost like their eyes smile.
Yes.
They sparkle. They've got that light in their eyes that they never had before. And that's when you know that they're okay.
And it's transformative for you as well. It's not, seeing that transformation in the dog, I guess there's no greater reward.
It inspires you to want that for the others.
For others,
Yeah.
And so one last question I would say is, I always ask my guests is, do you believe we'll see the end of this dog cat meat trade in my lifetime, yours? I mean, I don't know. I always say I'm older, but I feel in my gut, I feel like this is something winnable in my lifetime. And whereas, you know, I'm vegan, I don't see a vegan world in my lifetime. I'm afraid it's not going to happen. Maybe in 1,000 years, hopefully. But, you know, I would definitely think that this is something we can achieve, you know, because there's enough people.
I would like to say never. That's probably the best.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know how long it's going to take, but I do feel there's something here. And I think there's enough people outraged, both, you know, foreigners and locals, to enlist that change. And it might take longer in China and its communist regime. Like you said, it's going to be province by province. That is the more realistic way it's going to happen. It's not like the CCP will put out like a law and say, everyone, you know, across China, it's outlawed, and they're going to spend all their budget and resources to train police and, you know, to crack down on you know, the culprits. But I think province by province, I think one province sets the precedence, and then the others follow their example. And, you know, we just got to cheer them on, and we got to be supportive.
Well, this is the reason that I brought up Halo, because I met a guy on the train when I was traveling in China, and we were on one of the bullet trains. So I think it was 6 hours or so that we had to 6-7 hours we had to chat. And that guy was like a guardian angel. I'm sure someone sent him to help me, because I was in a bit of a sticky situation. And he actually, believe it or not, lives in Canada. He was Chinese.
Another nice Canadian.
He was Chinese and travels with his work, and was, you know, always away from home way too much, and made a thing where he would only travel once a month. And so he was back in China, and we were traveling on the train for quite some time, and he had friends that were Scottish because of the line of work that he used to be in. Traveled all around the world. So he said, okay, Amanda, I want you to be really honest. What is it that you're actually up to in China? Are you going to be honest? You're going to tell me. So I spoke to him about the meat trade, and he was amazing. And he gave me the most amazing tips about traveling there in future, about work that I want to do. And as we were chatting, I said, I'm actually taking dogs back to Scotland. And he said, really? He says, from the meat trade? And I said, actually, no, they're not. I said, these were street dogs. And I told him the story. And he just stopped and turned and looked and said, I cannot believe you are taking those dogs back to Scotland. He knew Halo's story. Halo's story was incredibly famous.
Oh my God.
And what he said was, he said, the Chinese people, the government, do not want negativity. They do not want to be hammered about the dog meat trade. They do not want the negative press. He said, however, he said, your little Halo, he said, is something, he says, that's the reason the story was so big. He said, because they loved it, because that's what China want. You know, they don't want to be painted in a dark
negatively,
light.
Of course. Yeah. And did he know about the meat trade because he's Chinese?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
He says that even when his kids travel to China to visit family, he said they rarely eat unless they 100% know exactly what it is.
Yeah, because it's tricky. I think there's a lot more dog meat restaurants than we would think. And it's not always obvious. And in your opinion, are there dog meat restaurants in big cities like Beijing? I believe so.
I would think I certainly tried to find out what I could when I was in
Yeah.
Beijing. I know that there's still obviously operations happening behind certain areas, and but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know where to find them. I was told that right in the centre, you're going to find
A little bit everywhere.
insects and a
Yeah.
little bit of this and a little bit of that, but further out, or
It's even more common. Yeah, absolutely.
or little pop-up markets.
Yeah, those pop-up markets. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so I lied. I have one last question for you. But do you have a guest that you would recommend for the podcast? Because as I said, I started this in the fall of 2019, and the goal was really to cover and understand the dog cat meat trade in various countries, its origins, why it's still happening, what can we do to help, especially foreigners, because a lot of the viewers are American, Canadian, Westerners, European, and anyone you think I should have on the podcast, and why?
I know that there's someone else that I think quite highly of, that rescues dogs from China from the meat trades, and they're based in England. And the irony about that was that many years ago, I was contacted by somebody who needed help with Labrador.
Okay.
And they said, do you know any organizations in in UK that would help or take this dog on? And luckily they did. And I didn't realize that as years went on, this same organization ended up rescuing Labradors and Retrievers from the dog meat trade.
No way.
So they're bringing them to. So I don't know if they would be interested. I mean, I can certainly.
But what's their
have
name?
A word. It's Lab and Retriever Rescue.
Okay.
In southern counties in England that I could mention if you were interested in adding into the podcast.
Yeah. And were they doing rescue before, and then they heard about the meat trade, and now they started rescuing dogs from...
Well, they were doing rescue, I think, within the UK.
Right.
I'd got them years ago to take this dog on from Romania that they found an adopter for, and the dog had a good life. Unknown to me until last year, I didn't realize that they then branched out, and then they were starting to help.
They were really,
we spoke about going forward in future, trying to work together, going forward.
On that note, any parting words or messages that you would like to share with viewers? As I mentioned, a lot of dog cat meat trade activists, a lot of animal rights activists make up our viewership. So any messages for them of what maybe they can do to help?
I think everyone's got a part in the chain.
Yeah.
Everyone always, this was the one thing that while I did Britain's Got Talent, people asked, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And it's not everyone that wants to look at the pictures, not everyone that wants to get too involved.
Yeah.
But there's nothing from sharing a post on social media. You have no idea where that can go.
You're living proof. You're living proof.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm just going to give another quick example. I happened to share a picture of a dog in another country that had been overlooked for so long.
Yeah.
And this dog just broke my heart. I couldn't, at that point, I was committed to so much else.
Yeah.
And I kept on sharing him, and he hadn't been noticed by this person. But because I kept on sharing this dog for over a year, she finally picked up on it and seen it. And she adopted him. And it's someone that I've known in the UK for a long time.
That adopted.
Her sister then contacted the rescue because she started following this person's social media page, and then adopted another dog. So just, it doesn't matter. It could be the fact that someone financially can't afford to donate. That's fine. but share something on social channels, or you might be the person that is amazing at baking and can do bake sales and all of that kind of stuff. I think that from the grassroots, you know, everyone has their part in the chain, no matter how, you know,
there's always something we can do. No matter how small it may seem insignificant, you know, sharing a post. That's right. But next thing you know, that you saved the dog by doing that.
Because you just don't know that next person that you've touched, and that how far they're going to take it. It's a domino effect.
Absolutely.
Is the way I look at it.
And I guess, you know, if we want, I mean, where would we send people if we want to follow your next book, your next big project? You have Paul Leask, I believe you have a website, or?
I've actually watched this space because there's a few things that are kind of in the pipeline that I'm working on at the moment. I was hoping that I was going to be able to share some news with you by the time we did
I understand, but it keeps us, you know, curious.
I don't have a website. I do have the page Amanda and Miracle, because I did have various different pages and groups, and it just got so time consuming to try.
No kidding. You need a crew. You need a crew for that.
But so Amanda and Miracle, if people, you know, I haven't updated just lately, but I'm just about to be announcing.
You're on Facebook. I think you're on Instagram. You're a little bit everywhere, right? So the way I see it is this show has given you a platform that's much bigger than anything you could be doing on social media. And so it's a gain. It's a big gain. And, you know, I think so. People that are not animal activists are following you, and we need that. We need everyone. People that are politicians that can affect policy changes. We need, you know, everyone.
Because it's all about the one thing is it's awareness constantly. Because if we're going to do, like we said, province by province, country by country, the more people that are made aware that still unbelievably so are not aware. It's
you got to reach them. You got to reach them.
They're going to get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. You've been amazing. So generous with your time. I feel almost guilty monopolizing your time like this, but it's for a worthy cause. And I'm going to make sure that, you know, this podcast is properly promoted. We're going to get the word out, and, you know, more people, more supporters for this tremendous cause. And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Commend you.
Follow me on social channels and watch out for any new stuff that just might be coming up.
I'm really anticipating now. Thank you, Amanda. And we'll say good night to Miracle, hopefully to you too. I hope you get a good night's sleep too. Oh,
he's watching.
Oh, your little eye, Miracle.
Night, Miracle.
I love you. It's Auntie Jade in Canada. I love you, my boy. I feel like you're my boy
so
too.
Funny. He's so funny sometimes. Honestly, it's almost like I'm sleeping.
It's like, what are you doing, woman?
And
like I'm trying to.
Mom, you can talk with Scotland.
You're not too polite. Well, he stole my heart. I swear to God, he stole so many people's hearts. But oh my God. Well, hopefully one day.
Lovely. I was going to say, hopefully, you know, one day it'd be lovely if you actually could meet him. You know, in some shape or form. You know, if you were ever over here, because he is like such a little gent.
Oh my God!
But switches it on.
I think I would never leave your house, though. You'd have to kick me out. Oh my God! Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks so much.
You've been amazing.
Thank you.
And keep doing the good work. You're doing an amazing job.
Well, as you've probably guessed, I talk a lot, so I'm probably never going to shut up.
We don't want you to. You gotta continue being a voice, a voice for these animals because they need you. And, like you're an amazing advocate. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay, bye.